Sleeping with your brother was just physical. I swear I love you." My wife shrieked when I caught her in our bed with him. Then, just a few days later, she filed a lawsuit against me for emotional damage, dragging my own parents in as her witnesses. It was in that moment that I realized I had far more enemies than I ever could have imagined. The flowers tumbled from my grip and hit the floor before I fully processed the sight in front of me. I had just opened the bedroom door that Friday afternoon to find my wife, Paula, lying there with my younger brother, Javier. Time seemed to stand still. She scrambled to cover herself and whispered, "It's not what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like. And in that instant, everything I thought I knew about love, family, and loyalty went up in flames. My name is Nicholas, and I'm 34. Until recently, I genuinely thought my life was heading in the right direction. I work as a systems engineer and owned a decent house. I had been married to Paula, 33, for 6 years, after being together for 9. We weren't a perfect couple, but I honestly believed our bond was unbreakable. She was fun, charismatic, and always seemed to know how to brighten any day. Yet, all that happiness evaporated instantly. I'd come home earlier than usual that Friday, intending to surprise Paula. I had a bottle of wine, ingredients for a nice dinner, and some fresh flowers. Lately, we'd felt a little distant. She blamed the strain on her job at an advertising agency, and I put it down to my demanding work schedule. I figured it was just the normal grind of married life, nothing serious. When I parked and went inside, the house was unnervingly quiet. Usually, Paula would have music playing or be chatting on the phone, but today, there was only silence. I climbed the stairs, calling her name. No answer. When I pushed open the door to our bedroom, my whole world shattered. There she was, Paula, in our marital bed, with my younger brother, Javier. I don't need to paint the scene for you, but trust me, they weren't enjoying a game of cards. Javier, at 30, had always been the golden boy of the family. He was a lawyer, charming, and the one who could never do any wrong. Seeing him there with my wife was a sickening punch to the gut. "What is this?" I managed to yell, my voice shaking uncontrollably. Paula quickly pulled the sheet up, as if that could somehow undo what I'd witnessed. Javier froze, scrambling for his clothes, looking like a total idiot caught in a trap. And by the way, if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now to the rest of the story. "Nicholas, it's not what it looks like," she started, using that same persuasive tone she always used to talk me into anything. "It's not what it looks like." I cut her off. "You are in our bed with my brother. What exactly am I missing here?" Javier tried to chime in. "Brother, wait. Just let me explain." "Don't call me brother," I snapped, taking a threatening step toward him. Every fiber of my being wanted to hit him, but somehow, I managed to restrain myself. Maybe I just couldn't bring myself to give him the satisfaction of seeing me lose control. Paula dissolved into tears, claiming it was a terrible mistake and she never meant to hurt me, but her words felt hollow, like a bad performance. I couldn't stand being in that room a second longer. I stormed downstairs, grabbed my phone, and called my friend and lawyer, Caesar. "Come to my house right now," I told him. "This is bad, really bad." While I waited, I sat numbly in the living room, staring at our wedding photos on the wall. Each one now felt like a cruel lie. Paula eventually came down, her eyes red, trying desperately to plead with me. "Nicholas, please, we have to talk. It was a mistake. I swear." "Shut up," I told her, my voice completely cold. "I want you out of this house immediately." She just stood there, whimpering, but I tuned her out. Javier, the coward, had already slipped out the back door. When Caesar arrived, I laid out the whole terrible story. He didn't hesitate. "This is undeniable grounds for divorce, Nico," he said, jotting down notes. "But we need concrete proof. If you want, I'll start the process today." I gave him a nod. I wanted this marriage over, but more than that, I wanted them both to face the consequences of their actions. I checked into a hotel that night. I simply couldn't bear to sleep in that house after what I'd seen. My phone kept buzzing incessantly. There were messages from Paula begging for forgiveness, claiming she still loved me. Then came the texts from my parents, Louise and Patricia. They didn't ask how I was or offer any support. Instead, their messages read, "Don't be too hard on Javier. He didn't mean for this to happen. Paula is a good person. Maybe it's all just a misunderstanding." That was the ultimate betrayal. It had always been this way. Javier, the untouchable favorite, and me, the older brother, who always had to be the bigger person and concede. Not this time. I was done. The next morning, I officially retained Caesar. I asked him to dig into everything. I wasn't just seeking a divorce. I wanted to ensure Paula didn't escape accountability. What I didn't see coming was her next move. Not only did she flat out deny the affair, but she actually sued me for emotional damages. Her claim was that I was a controlling, neglectful husband who had essentially forced her to seek comfort elsewhere. The most painful part? My parents were listed as her witnesses, ready to testify that I was a terrible spouse, that I ignored Paula, and that I had abandoned her. When Caesar handed me the lawsuit documents, I was beyond belief. Holding those papers in his office, I felt the sickening weight of being betrayed by absolutely everyone: my wife, my brother, and my parents. But amidst the fury, a switch flipped inside me. I was not going to let them win. Caesar, destroy them, I instructed him. Find every single thing you can. He gave me a grim smile. Just give me a few days. We're going to make them regret this entire stunt. I settled into a small, temporary apartment. I couldn't handle being in the old house with those memories. Every night was a living hell, my mind constantly replaying how I had gotten to this point. I'd remember the good times with Paula, believing we were happy, only for the brutal image of her with Javier to flash back, fueling my rage. One evening, my mother sent a lengthy text full of excuses. She claimed Javier was deeply sorry and Paula was completely devastated, suggesting I should just forgive them for the sake of the family. I deleted the message without a response. I had absolutely nothing left to say to them. A few days later, Caesar called. Nico, get down to the office. I found something huge. When I arrived, he showed me footage from the security cameras I'd installed last year after a break-in on the street. I never imagined I'd use them for this. The videos clearly showed Paula and Javier coming and going when I wasn't home. This wasn't a one-time thing. It had been going on for months. Each clip felt like a knife twisting, but it was also a source of immense power. Caesar had also checked our joint accounts. Paula had burned through thousands of dollars on hotels, restaurants, and gifts, all using our money to fund her affair with Javier. With this, we don't just win the divorce, Caesar stated firmly. We can file a countersuit. Emotional damages, theft, perjury. We are going to obliterate them. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of relief. It wasn't happiness, but the cold certainty that I had the upper hand. Paula thought she could twist the narrative, painting me as the villain, but she had severely underestimated me. I decided not to confront them yet. I wanted them to feel secure, to think they were winning, to file their lawsuit, call my parents, and build their shaky tower of lies. I held the truth, and when the moment was right, I would use it to bring them crashing down. I stayed in that lifeless little apartment, cheap furniture, bare walls. It wasn't a home, just a place to sleep. Paula kept barraging me with pleas and apologies. I love you, Nicholas. We can fix this. It was a meaningless mistake. I read them all without replying, archiving them as proof of her breathtaking nerve. Javier, wisely, never dared to message me. My parents, however, were relentless. My mother called one afternoon, her voice thick with that signature tone she used to induce guilt. Nicholas, we really need to talk, she insisted. We are your family. You can't cut everyone off over this. Over this? I shot back, gripping the phone. I caught my wife in bed with my brother. Mom, what is your suggestion? Should I invite them both over for dinner? She let out a weary sigh, as if I were the unreasonable one. Javier is sorry, and Paula is saying that you weren't there for her. Maybe if you had. I slammed the phone down. I couldn't take another word. I blocked both her number and my father's. If they were going to side with Paula and Javier, they would have to deal with the consequences. I was done with them. Caesar, my lawyer, was in full attack mode. I met him at his office, a chaotic space that always smelled faintly of stale, burnt coffee. He showed me a massive stack of papers, bank statements, receipts, and more camera footage from the house. Each document was another nail in Paula's coffin. Look here, he said, pointing to a statement. Paula spent nearly $10,000 in 6 months. Hotels, expensive restaurants, and a fancy watch that is definitely not in your house. Take a guess who is wearing it in the videos. Javier, I replied, a cold dread washing over me. Bingo. And we have even more. I found emails Paula sent to a friend describing her romantic getaways with Javier. They were completely careless about hiding it. How did you get the emails? I asked. Caesar just smiled. I have a friend who is talented at finding things. Don't worry, it's all perfectly legal. This gives us an insurmountable advantage. He outlined the strategy. We would let Paula proceed with her emotional damages claim. She and her lawyer, a guy who seemed eager to settle quickly, claimed I was controlling and neglectful, arguing my coldness drove her directly into Javier's arms. My parents, acting as witnesses, fully supported this fabrication, asserting I was too focused on work and that Paula deserved better. Reading their testimony was excruciating, but it hardened my resolve. Don't worry, Caesar reassured me. We're going to allow them to get overly confident in court. Then, we crush them. The preliminary hearing happened a few weeks later. Walking into the courthouse with Caesar felt like stepping into a bad dream. Paula was there, dressed impeccably, looking like a frail victim. She didn't fool me. Javier was predictably absent and hiding. My parents sat behind her, refusing to meet my eyes. Paula's lawyer delivered a dramatic, overblown speech, portraying me as a negligent husband who had caused Paula immense emotional trauma. Listening to the absurdity of it all was maddening, but I followed Caesar's instruction to remain completely silent and composed, though I was boiling inside. When it was our turn, Caesar was direct and concise. He stated clearly that the accusations were false and that we would be filing a countersuit for perjury and financial damages. The judge, a severe-looking woman, took careful notes and set the date for the main trial. As we were leaving, Paula rushed up to me, her eyes glistening. "Nicholas, please, let's not escalate this," she whispered. "We can still fix this." "Fix it," I repeated, meeting her gaze. "You started this, Paula. Now you will face the consequences." I walked away without looking back. Caesar caught up to me, letting out a chuckle. "That was perfect. You left her utterly terrified. She knows she has no solid ground." In the time before the trial, I immersed myself in work, trying desperately to block out what was coming, but it was impossible. Every night, I felt compelled to review the videos, even though they tore me apart. Watching Paula and Javier in my own home, acting like I didn't even exist, was pure torture. But it also served as a constant reminder of exactly why I was fighting. Caesar called me one afternoon with more information. He had found Paula's contract with her advertising agency, which stipulated exclusivity on a major project. Our records showed she had missed crucial meetings precisely when she was with Javier. That mistake could cost her her job, and Javier, as a lawyer, was also in serious trouble. His firm could investigate him for severe unethical conduct. The thought of his career imploding gave me a flash of pity, just a flash, immediately extinguished by the memory of his face in my bed. The day of the trial finally arrived. I put on a suit that felt more like a uniform for a funeral. The courtroom was packed. Paula and her lawyer were seated opposite us, my parents behind them, still avoiding me. Caesar was completely composed, his folder bulging with evidence. Paula's lawyer recycled his victim narrative. I was the bad guy, Paula was the wrong party. They called my parents to the stand. My mother testified that I was always working, that I failed to give Paula attention, and that she was merely seeking love elsewhere. My father backed her up, confirming that I was emotionally distant. Hearing them tear me down felt like a part of me was being ripped out, but I maintained a poker face. Caesar then stood up, calm and deliberate. He presented the camera videos, showing Paula and Javier entering and exiting my house repeatedly. The room went silent. Next, he displayed the bank statements, the emails, and then Paula's work contract. Every piece of evidence landed like a physical blow. Paula's lawyer attempted to object, but the judge firmly silenced him. Paula was ghost white, staring at the floor. My parents, for the very first time, looked truly uncomfortable. Caesar requested a countersuit for $50,000 to cover therapy, legal fees, and the money Paula had illicitly spent from our accounts. The judge concluded by stating she would review the evidence and issue her ruling shortly. On the way out, Paula couldn't even bring herself to look at me. My parents made a move to approach, but I walked past them. I had nothing left to say. That night, alone in my apartment, I opened a beer and tried to steady my nerves. I had won a skirmish, but the war wasn't over. I knew Paula and Javier would try something desperate, and my parents would likely continue to defend them, but my evidence was my shield and my sword. Caesar called the next day. "Nico, we're in the home stretch. Get ready, because things are about to get very interesting." I didn't know what was coming, but I was ready. I welcomed the fight. I wasn't going to retreat. The days leading up to the final judgment were a quiet kind of hell. I threw myself into work, but my mind never stopped spinning. Closing my eyes meant seeing Paula and Javier in my house, or my parents in court testifying to their lies. But then I'd recall the concrete evidence Caesar had amassed. Those images, those numbers, those emails, they were my ultimate weapon, and the moment to fire it was rapidly approaching. Caesar kept me informed. He said Paula's lawyer was frantic, desperate to negotiate a settlement before the judge's ruling. They wanted me to drop the countersuit if Paula would withdraw her emotional damages claim. Caesar chuckled when he told me, "They are terrified, Nico. They know the judge won't believe a word after what we showed. Don't agree to anything." "I want this resolved in court," I told him firmly. "I want them all to see exactly who they truly are." He nodded. "That's what I figured. We're going the distance." The day of the ruling finally arrived. I wore the same suit from the trial, which now truly felt like armor. The courtroom was just as packed, but the tension in the air was palpable and different this time. Paula sat at the front, her head bowed, lacking the perfect makeup she'd worn before. Her shoulders seemed to bear the full weight of her awful choices. My parents were there, still avoiding my gaze. Javier, as usual, was conspicuously absent. The judge entered, and a deep silence fell over the room. She was concise. She stated that the defense's evidence was overwhelming and irrefutable. The camera footage, the bank statements, the emails, all of it proved Paula had lied. Her claim for emotional damages was instantly dismissed. But that wasn't the end of it. The judge fully accepted my countersuit, awarding me $50,000 for therapy expenses, legal fees, and the funds Paula had stolen from our joint accounts. Furthermore, she issued a stern warning. Paula's perjury could very well lead to criminal charges, depending on the prosecutor's decision. When the judge mentioned the possibility of charges, Paula let out a ragged sob. Her lawyer tried to console her, but he looked completely beaten. My parents, sitting behind her, exchanged glances as if the gravity of what they had been supporting had finally hit them. Caesar gave my shoulder a triumphant squeeze and whispered, "We won, Nico." I left the courthouse with a strange feeling. It wasn't happiness, but a massive relief mixed with a profound emptiness. I had won the case, but at what personal cost? My marriage was a ruin. My family was shattered. And all the trust one once had in people had simply evaporated. Outside, my parents attempted to approach me. My mother, eyes red and tear-filled, started speaking. "Nicholas, please, let's talk. We are your family. We didn't want this outcome either." "Enough." I cut her off, my voice steady but firm. "You made your choice. There is no going back." My father tried to say something, but I simply turned and walked away. I had no energy left for their pathetic excuses. Caesar caught up with me in the parking lot. "You did the right thing, man. Now it's time to start putting your life back together." But rebuilding wasn't so simple. In the following weeks, the consequences of their actions fell like dominoes. Paula was fired from her job at the advertising agency. It turned out her boss found out about the breached contract and the missed meetings due to her affair with Javier. On top of that, she was facing a perjury investigation that could cost her dearly. I heard whispers that she was crashing at a friend's place, swimming in debt, and completely stripped of the lavish lifestyle she loved. Javier didn't escape unscathed, either. His law firm launched an internal investigation into his conduct. As a lawyer, he knew getting involved with his brother's wife was an ethical nightmare. He was in danger of losing his license, and his professional reputation was already in tatters. Knowing this brought me no satisfaction, only a cold sense of justice being served. My parents never stopped trying to reach me. They left messages, sent letters, and even showed up at my workplace once, but I never responded. I simply couldn't. Every time I thought of them, I was instantly reminded of how they had instantly sided with Paula and Javier. How they had blamed me without a second thought. Maybe one day, I'll be able to forgive them, but that day is certainly not today. Paula, for her part, refused to give up. A month after the final ruling, she sent me a long email, soaked in digital tears. She claimed she was sorry, that the affair was the biggest mistake of her life, that she still loved me, and that she desperately wanted a second chance. "Please, Nicholas, don't leave me like this. I'm utterly alone. I have nothing left." I read the entire message, archived it, and never replied. There was nothing left to say. She had dug her own grave, and now she had to lie in it. With the money from the countersuit, I paid off Caesar, covered the costs of the therapy sessions I had begun, and put the rest into a savings account. Therapy has helped a little, but it hasn't erased the emptiness. Each session feels like slowly ripping off an old wound. It hurts, but it's making me feel slightly more human. My therapist insists I need time to heal, but I often wonder if I'll ever be able to fully trust anyone again. I moved into a much nicer apartment, one with huge windows overlooking a peaceful park. I started spending time with friends I had neglected during my marriage. They didn't pry. They just invited me out for a beer or to watch a game. Gradually, I began to laugh again, although the laughter isn't quite the same. A part of me remains stuck in that old house, in that bed where everything was irrevocably broken. One evening, while having a quiet coffee in my new place, I got a message from an unknown number. It was Javier. "Nicholas, I know you don't want to talk, but I need to tell you I'm sorry. I was a complete idiot. I don't expect your forgiveness, but I hope we can talk someday." I read it, and for a fleeting second, I considered replying. But then the torrent of memories came back, the betrayal, the endless lies, the agonizing pain. I deleted the message and instantly blocked the number. Months later, I find myself in a very strange place. Legally, I won. Paula and Javier are facing the consequences, and my parents are, for now, out of my life. But I don't feel like a winner. My faith in family, in love, and in human relationships is utterly shattered. Sometimes I doubt I will ever be able to love someone without constantly expecting a knife in the back. Maybe with time, as my therapist assures me, maybe. For now, I'm just putting one foot in front of the other. I work. I see my friends. I'm trying to build something new from the wreckage. I don't know what the future holds, but one thing is absolutely clear. I will never let anyone trample on me again.